Cheers, friends, and good evening. Welcome to the Quarantine Drinking Team series here on BourbonBlog.com. You're watching us on many channels, and wherever you're watching, definitely like this, share this. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. Now we're on Twitch, so wherever you are, tell your friends to tune in because I'm going to be chatting with one of my favorite gentlemen in the world of whiskey that I've known really since I got into the world of whiskey. It's Jason Brauner. He's the founder of Buzzard's Roost Sippin Whiskeys. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Absolutely, and we are already sipping on some of the Buzzard's Roost Single Barrel. That is really delicious stuff. And I really like the name. I like the packaging. It's very elegant. Tell me about Buzzard's Roost.
Well, let's see. You know how long I've been in the kind of the bourbon world and the whiskey world. Since 2005, when I co-founded Bourbon's Bistro.
Right.
Well, I naturally for me, it was kind of a natural move for me to get into my own whiskey. I've known all the distillers and I've been picking single barrels for years and years. So a couple of friends of mine, we got together and decided to start our own brand. But it's going to be more of a beverage company. We're actually starting with some ryes, and we're just going to see where it takes us. I'm just really thrilled about the products we're putting out, and it's a wild ride.
They're delicious whiskeys, and I met you in those early days, right after you had co-founded the Bourbon's Bistro, which we still enjoy in Louisville, and you and I had some really great times. We even had you in our bourbon documentary about 15 years ago. We were talking about we got to find some of that old footage from. I think one night we went from your place. We had a limo. We went like all over town. Right, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'd love to see that old footage. I don't even know if I saw it when it was out.
We got to try it.
So it'd be all new to me.
Some good stuff. We'll have to look for maybe the censored version. I'm just kidding. No, it was a good time. We've had a lot of good times with you and your team there, and I'm just so excited about your new whiskey. This is beautiful. So I'm tasting the single barrel. This is at 105 proof. You just released this brand back last July.
Right. We came out July 26th of last year. Which happens to be my birthday. So
I know.
Yeah. So what we did, we came out on our first batch. We did a very small batch, and we also did a single barrel.
Right.
Both of them sold really well. We're working on this is our second batch, our second batch that we've put out now. So we do have we've got a small batch as well. We've got a single barrel. We added to our lineup a barrel proof.
Right.
And we also, just down the road, maybe a month or two out, we have a toasted barrel that we're doing.
Wow, a toasted barrel. And this is, there's something very special that you've done with these whiskeys to give them this extra finesse, this real beauty that when I first tasted it, I saw, I was reading about it. I was like, 36 months, it's beautiful, but it tastes really big. It has a lot of earth, a lot of spice. What makes this what it is?
Well, what we've been doing, we've worked very closely with Independent Stave, and I've done a lot of research down there with their research department. We have developed our own proprietary barrels down there. So we do a secondary aging, and we're transparent about everything that we do. Right now, we're getting our rye from MGP, and what we do is we will put it in our secondary barreling and age it for maybe 2 to 3 months. We have it shipped over to Kentucky to the Neely family distillery. So we're doing all of our aging, our blending, and bottling, boxing, everything up the Neely family distillery.
Really close to Louisville, yeah.
Yeah. So what makes ours different is the aging process that we use for the barrels. What we do is we use a really heavy toast, which is it's just now really coming to the industry. Use a huge toast, and if you've looked at all the charts and graphs that I've looked at, we've got to a point to where we like one of our barrels, for example, is 247 degrees for like 90 minutes. So that brings a huge heavy toast to the surface. And what that does is when lignin breaks down in the wood, it actually turns into vanillin, which is a big component in vanilla. So you can see this chart, you know, it's lignin, and then the vanillin shoots through the roof at this certain time period. So basically, we've got almost like a spice rack of barrels. We have a vanilla barrel, we have a smoke barrel, a spice barrel, and a couple other barrels that not at liberty to talk about yet. But so what we do, we kind of put that in our spice rack. We pick some good juice from MGP. We'll age it in our barrels, and then that's when we go to work. We'll taste them every couple of weeks, depending on whether it's summer or winter. And we do our own blending or merging. You know, we always hate to say blending in the bourbon business, but you know, we'll do our own blends, and then we'll pick out the single barrels or whatever. We kind of let the whiskey tell us what to do after our aging. So we use and I mentioned, I think we use the #1 char. So it's a lot easier for the whiskey to get through to the sugar layers that we want. We want to pull those flavors out of the extractives out of the barrel. We use brand new 53-gallon barrels. So there's really, I'm pretty much a traditionalist. We don't do any shortcuts, the small barrels, any type of kind of cycling and the aging. We just put it in our barrels, and we feel that it does a great job for us.
So this second barrel, that you did the research on, what was the inspiration to get you to the point where you knew, hey, it needs to be the 240-degree temperature? Did you go through a whole lot of trial and error? How did that come about? Well,
we relied on Independent Stave, their research department. We relied heavily on them, and kind of told them what we wanted, and they produced it for us, which is really cool because they do some extensive, they do all kinds of testing down there and all kinds of research. And so, I'm a traditional guy as far as my whiskey goes. Like I said, I don't like to do any shortcuts, anything like that. All we're doing is just being innovative in our maturation.
Right. When you get the whiskey from MGP, it is it's about how old is it? How long does it stay at Neely Family?
Right. So we I think our what we wanted to do with this experiment is try some young whiskeys.
Yep.
And we're going to source. I mean, we've looked into getting a distillery, but it's awfully expensive. And
sure.
I realized that somebody wasn't just going to hand me $30 million. So this is our next option.
Right.
So what we do is thank you. So we started to do ryes. I've never was a big rye fan.
Right.
So what I wanted, the challenge for me was to take a rye and turn it into a bourbon drinker's drinking. Like, I could never sit around and sip on a rye, but this is what we put in our names. We want to make sure that what comes out the other end is going to be sipping whiskey.
And this definitely is. You wanted a rye that bourbon lovers would really appreciate.
That's correct. Yeah. And so this is all of our products right now are 95.5, so 95% rye, 5% barley, which is huge. We also, it's very young. We usually get them around 2 to 3 years, and they'll spend, by the time it hits the market, we're not going to put out under a 3 year. So ours are normally going to be about 3 years old. And what we do is they will, like I said, depending on the time of year, they'll spend 2 to 3, maybe 4 months in our secondary barreling. So it really doesn't take that long if you think about it.
Excellent. Someone just asked, I believe, what was the what was the flavor you were intending to go for, and what came out?
Well, like I said, I've never been a huge rye person. Ryes are real grassy, kind of earthy to me.
Yes.
We wanted to pull the sweetness out of the grain.
The sweetness with some spice.
Yeah, more like kind of like a bourbon, know. And we because obviously I'm a big bourbon fan. but I just wanted a rye where you could sit around and sip on, but it'd be good enough to stand up to cocktails because, traditionally a big strong rye stands up to cocktails, anything you want to put on it. So, what I think we came out with is a sipping whiskey that you could make a great cocktail out of.
Oh, yeah. I could see this really being a deep in a Manhattan, an old fashioned.
Sure. So that's why
rye cocktails.
Our minimums are 105 proof. That'd be our single barrel and our small batch. And then our barrel proofs are around 113, 114, which are just fabulous. To me, those are selling points. When it's a 95.5 and it doesn't really taste that heavy of a rye, when it is that high a proof, and that young. So there's three things you think that would be working against you that I think are selling points that are actually working for us. Okay. That it is a 95.5. It is over 105 proof, and it's only 3 years old, and it's drinking like it's, you've got one there. So
it's drinking like it's definitely more than 3. I mean, it tastes to me at least 6 to 9. I mean, it has those deep elements. That nice earth. I do get some nice spice like I get on ryes, but I get that sweetness. Mm-hmm. It's a really nice sort of deep barrel, some chocolate. I mean, a lot of things are happening here in this rye whiskey. Someone asks why the name. I mean, again, cool label, cool name. This one has your signature on it here. Why the name Buzzard's Roost?
Well, when we were developing our brand, like I said, I'm a traditional guy. I want to stay within the rules of making whiskey, making bourbon, making rye. I wanted it to sound old, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to bring an old label back, so I didn't want to go purchase somebody else's label, and so I think that Buzzard's Roost sounds old. With kind of a new innovation. It's in a sleek bottle. It doesn't look old. It doesn't look like an old brand, but I feel that it sounds like an old name.
It does.
And plus, when we decided on Buzzard's Roost, if you read the back of it, I picture this, these group of buzzards sitting over these warehouses, with the moonlight and just kind of keeping watch and patiently sitting there. So we said, let's roost a while, instead of, life, everybody's in a big hurry. Grab some whiskey. Let's sit around. We're going to sip it and we're going to roost a while. So it kind of played into, the marketing. It kind of played into the marketing scheme with roosting and whatever. It's just kind of, hey, let's slow down, grab some friends. We're going to sit around and sip some whiskey.
Oh, I love it. And it does. The marketing, the label, it does feel like a brand that has been around for a long time. It's really cool. Who did the artwork for this? Just out of curiosity, did you have somebody that will do that? Or?
I did, and just not. I guess I'm not. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say that.
It's anonymous artist. It's all right.
Yeah, we've had and that may come out later, but we've had some people do some stuff
cool.
that are in the business now that are, I have a lot of friends that are in the business. And,
it's really cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll all come out soon, I hope. But this is our, here we go. It's too bright.
That's the small, go back a little bit. That's the small, is that the barrel strength? Tell me about the barrel strength.
This is the barrel strength.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it's too bright. But we've got a gold top on here. So this is 113.4.
Wow.
It's a beautiful drink.
The barrel. Again, same with all these three. The small batch is going to be very similar flavor profile, but the single barrel really has those touches of what a single barrel is.
Definitely. And we actually won gold. We've got a 2020 gold medal for our single barrel from the San Francisco World Spirits.
I heard that there were some awards that had happened. That's amazing. And that was your first entry, right?
Our first run at it, we were real excited to win a gold with our single barrel.
Well deserved. This is beautiful stuff. I think it really stands apart from traditional ryes, and I love that that you are putting your own spin on a rye and what can happen to a rye. I mean, I think there's so much innovation that there's been a lot of great Kentucky distilleries and distilleries everywhere, but to actually really innovate and do something different to put your own signature on it. I mean, that's what you were inspired to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that, like I said, that we're not breaking any rules. We're using brand new barrels. It's expensive for us, and we're just doing a number one char, which is really cool. It does impart a little bit of color, but the whole lot of flavor is what lies behind the char, and through innovation, through research, and through testing, that we can tell what extractives we're bringing out at what temperatures and different types of heat too. With the radiant heat, much different, and so we're bringing these extractives to the surface, and we're utilizing them. So it's really neat the way it'd take a day or two to explain it all and go through it, but it's a really cool process, and I think the big boys would use it if they could, but they've already got their profile set, and you're going to see some stuff come to market that's like this, because Independent Stave is a huge company. They're doing a great job.
They do.
And so a lot of distilleries are being, they're being more innovative. But us moving forward, I think, even if we do contract some bourbon, which we're looking into, actually getting on behind the still and making some bourbon, they're going to be in our barrel. So that's really where I want to see what it does with new make, how it's going to affect some new make with that number one char. And, we may have to back off of it a little bit. I don't know. But we're hopefully soon find out about that. We're always looking for investors. We've got the investor program set up to where, people can buy in for a certain amount of money. It's almost like being in a racehorse syndicate. They put up so much money, and hopefully moving forward, we're going to expand. We are in the state of Kentucky right now. We're looking to move to Chicago, would be our next venture, and then probably St. Louis after that.
Okay.
So we're grassroots. We're going to kind of grow it. My business partner, she used to work for IBM, and she used to work for Wendy's as supply chain. So she's a retired CEO, and she kind of runs the shop, and I'm in the warehouse doing the blending and tasting and such. But she's been in the food industry her whole life, as far as like the corporate side of it, and has been a big influence on helping the quality of what we're doing and things. I mean, it's a cool partnership we've got going on.
That is great. So if you're in Kentucky, you can find this. If you soon to be Chicago, St. Louis, people probably can order these at someplace online, I'm sure, right?
I don't know. We're trying. We're with all of this going on, we're actually looking into online sales.
Right. Okay.
So hopefully we'll have that squared away in the next month or so.
I think I did see a few places online that sold. I'm forgetting the exact ones, but I think if you just Google it, you can probably find it. If you're not in one of those states and you're looking for something new to try during the quarantine, we're all trying new things, and we're trying something new here every night on BourbonBlog. Every night it's a new great guest like Jason. Look for the Buzzard's Roost. Someone just asked also, we know you do a lot of these. You've done a lot of single barrel picks in your life. I've done a few, which have been fun. I know you've done a lot.
Probably over 100.
Over 100. Okay. Well, I remember I did my first one. You're wearing the Four Roses hat there. I did my first one at Four Roses, I think, right after we started BourbonBlog. We filmed a number of them with great restaurants, and they're fun. But you've done, tons of these things. How is creating your own brand and looking for your own flavor different from the single barrel selections you did? And what did you learn from those single barrel selections? How did that help you create your own brand?
Well, those single barrel experiences are just they're one in a million by themselves. It's so cool to go and pick a full barrel. And, like I said in another interview, that becomes the most exclusive whiskey in the world because it's yours.
It's yours.
It's like, this is mine and nobody else is going to get it until I sell it to you. So we're actually doing my 25th Four Roses barrel is coming this week. So 25 barrels at Four Roses is and all those guys down there were just fun to pick with, and you learn something every time you go.
Right.
But you really learn about, I think what that told me, because I've tasted, hundreds and hundreds of barrels sitting right next to each other in a warehouse, how different a barrel can be, and how different it can impart flavors on the same whiskey. I mean, I've tasted sister barrels, the same recipe sitting side by side, and they taste completely different.
So different. Yeah.
Yeah. In my mind, that was some place to start. I mean, how can we be different? And so instead of, I've seen all the other secondary aging with they're in rum barrels or port barrels, and that just wasn't for me. That felt like I said, to me, it feels cheating a little bit. But then I started digging deeper into the maturation of it and how different just one barrel can be. So through Independent Stave and my research, found these guys, and that's what they do every day. They're splitting hairs down there, and they're telling you why barrels can be different. I mean, where they're, where the trees are from and all that. I mean, it gets into it, but the heavy toast is what makes a difference, bringing all that flavor to the surface, and then the number one char, so it's easier for the whiskey to get through to that sugar layer.
That number one char, the whiskey will go through that quicker. If it was a heavier char, it'd be stopped a little bit more in its trail. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. It with the number 4 char, it's just harder for the whiskey to get through there.
Right.
And then number 1 char, like our flavor's right under there. So
the flavor,
and that's why, and we feel that's why it doesn't take so long, as far as only 2 months in the barrel. 2 or 3 months in the barrel. It can pick up flavors really quick.
Right. No, it really does. The next one is going to be you said a toasted?
A toasted barrel. So we won't be able to call it a straight rye. And that's with the government.
Right.
We'll have to call it. It'll be Buzzard's Roost toasted barrel.
Toasted barrel.
And there's no char on this barrel. So, and it's at, I'm going to say, just under 2 months in the toasted barrel, because all the flavor's right there on the surface. So it didn't really need that long. Like I said, we test them about every 2 to 3 weeks. We'll go up and take samples and see how they're progressing.
Because you got to see how they're all coming along.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So will we see the toasted in the fall, or you have any idea when we might see that one?
I think so. I think we were shooting for Derby of this year, but since they moved it, it's going to be kind of a limited release. So we may hold on to it. We've actually, it's sitting in stainless steel now, so it's stopped aging. And so we didn't want to overcook it. Right. And so we're just waiting to bottle it. And I think we're probably going to try to bring that out in the fall. Hopefully people will be getting out a little bit more. And that kind of held us up on some things as well. Kind of put a speed bump in what we were doing, but we finally got everything we wanted to get bottled and to the distributor. And I mean, the sales are a little slow now just because things are weird. But as soon as this thing is over, we're going to definitely hit the streets and try to get it in some more shops. I mean, we are all over the state of Kentucky, but I think one of the only big shops we're in is Total Wine. Total Wine. And then we're in a lot of mom and pop shops, and we want to be in, the nicer hotels, some of the nicer hotel bars. I think this holds a key and could be a good addition for those types of places.
It's something very special. I could see this going over there extremely well, and some great people watching. Dennis, thanks for watching. Your business partner Judith is watching.
Very good.
She just gave us a comment there and said, "Glad you like our whiskey." I do, Judith. Thanks for watching us, Judith, and great job with everything you guys are doing. Yeah, it's some nice stuff. What kind of cocktail what's been your favorite thing? I mean, obviously great by itself, but have you made a particular cocktail or had someone make you the one there that you love with it?
Tom, ever since I've been in this business, like I said, I'm traditional. I might add a cube of ice. I've never really been a cocktail guy, but I know that I've got to kind of get into that a little bit. And I've ventured out a little bit. Last summer I was drinking Paper Planes, which, it can be a little sweet and a little, I don't know. I really enjoyed a Paper Plane, but these are going to go great in your Old Fashioned, your Manhattan. And we're working on trying to come up with some cocktails of our own, that we can really make our whiskey shine through there. So, right. That's in development stages. Is trying to get Buzzard Roost into some cocktails other than, they're, like I said, they're great in a Manhattan. They're great in an Old Fashioned. And I love mine in a Paper Plane. So
right. Paper Plane. I could see how the subtleties of this would come nicely through in Paper Plane. Yeah. With that Italian flair. I think that's a great idea.
Sure.
Yeah, no, this is beautiful. So we'll be looking for that the toasted one soon. At some point, looking at some bourbons. What do you foresee? I mean, as far as rye has grown in huge ways, and I think it's exciting to see different ways people are taking rye. What's the feedback you hear just on rye as a category? I mean, you've sat at the bar and seen how people have enjoyed bourbon, rye, experimenting. What do you think as far as the future of rye goes, and bourbon and too?
Yeah, I think only up and up. And I think rye is going to follow bourbon to the top. And if you think about, if you still look at Scotch case sales and what have you compared to bourbon, we still have a lot of catching up to do, even though we've had a lot of growth over the past couple of years. And I think rye is going to piggyback to the top with bourbon. And I think, once more people get exposed to it, they've always talked about Scotch and whatever. And right. There's huge markets in Europe, in Asia, and Australia, Japan, different places. Japan's always been a great market for bourbon. But there's still a lot of room for growth with bourbon, which I think a lot of people don't understand. They think, oh, well, when's the bubble going to burst?
Right.
Well, if you look at, we still have a long way to go. And with the new innovation with bourbon and the what we're doing with rye, I love it. And like I said, I was never a big rye fan, but now I've seen the light. So, and like I said, we can't wait to get into bourbon. That's what it was all about. But showcasing what our maturation, what we can do with rye, really, I love getting our feet under us, and I can't wait till we can get behind the still and make some bourbon, or we may source some. I'd rather not, but right. Because bourbon's so expensive, and that was another thing. I didn't want to hit the market. You see some of these bourbons that are being sourced, and they're $150 a bottle, and that's just insane. Yeah. And I'm a Kentucky boy, so I'm kind of picky at what we're going to put out. Me through the years, Tom, I think that I'm fairly picky about what I do, and if I do something, I want it done right. So we felt a good starting place was for these ryes, and obviously the end game is going to be to get into bourbon in some capacity, and hopefully it'll be we'll at least contract, get behind the still, rent some still time from somebody. So
right. Now we've seen a lot of things grow. As you were mentioning, some of the sourced bottles, just putting it in there, calling it $150. That back when Bourbon's Bistro opened, 2005, back when I started around that same time with BourbonBlog, we didn't see that. And there was a certain point at which we did see it. What has surprised you the most the last 15 years in the world of whiskey? It's not just regard to pricing but just in general, what surprised you the most in general?
Well, to me, it's surprising that you're right. And I'm not downing people for doing it, for sourcing, putting a label on the bottle and just putting it out there.
Right.
You can't fault people for doing that. What that tells me is there's a huge market for it. Right. Whatever, anything bourbon, so even if they know that it's just sourced or whatever, I probably should have started a single barrel program a long time ago. You know what I mean? As far as my own juice, I think I've been on occasion to pick the best of the best over the last 15 years that each distillery has to offer. So, it took a while for the light bulb to go off, but
Right.
But after getting some experience like that of picking so many barrels, that I think, like I said, this was my next move. And
Yeah.
the surprising point is to see that there is a huge demand for anything bourbon and brown whiskey, and it's just such a relief to see vodkas kind of take a second fiddle.
Right. No, I feel you. And you obviously, with that experience, you really were able to pick some and do some really amazing things, and it really transformed this whiskey into something very special. You see, I just poured several of these. I really do like this. Every time I come back to this too, I get something different. I think that's another hallmark of a good whiskey, is that every time you return to a cocktail or a whiskey or whatever it may be, picking up new flavors, it grows on the palate. I mean, I think those are hallmarks of a very complex and unique whiskey, and you've done that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like I said, we're real excited about it, and you'll find yourself getting into a bottle. You're like, wow, okay, I only had 2 or 3, and it's like, oh damn. Before you know it, you've been overserved, and it's not that you've set out to do that, but it just kind of ends up that way, especially if you're sitting around chatting with some good friends and
Right.
and sipping some good whiskey. Time passes and you don't really think about it.
I know,
but
virtual,
in the end.
Yeah, these virtual drinks. It's so good to have a virtual drink with you tonight, Jason. This is one of my favorite parts about doing this every night, as I see somebody else that I really enjoy, who's awesome, having a drink with them. How do you think this quarantine, this time in our globe, our world's history, our world's history, how is this going to change the way that consumers discover new whiskeys, new spirits? How is it going to change drinking trends, if at all, and the industry? How do you think it'll change it?
Well, I think it's definitely put a speed bump in the social aspect of it, but
Right.
once they find a vaccine or a cure, it's going to be like anything else. It's going to take a while for us to get back going, but it only makes me hopeful for the future that when everybody does get back together, that they're going to be closer.
Right.
We're going to, because I think a lot of people, over the years have taken friendships and handshakes and hugs, almost when you look at it now, you've taken it for granted.
Right.
Like, I'll see you next week or whatever. It's like, I think moving forward, we're all going to be a little more weary of hey, we need to spend some time together and hopefully people will get off their phones and really personally interact together a lot differently than they have been.
Right. We may go from really being tied into, I think those are all good points. We may go from being really tied into social media so that we can see what's happening in the world to all of a sudden leaving it alone once we can get back in the real world again, right? I mean, that's...
Well, I think there's room for everything. Social media is a great thing now. It couldn't, don't take this the wrong way, but this thing couldn't have happened at a better time.
Right.
If this happened 15 years ago, we'd be all up a creek. But now we have, the Skype and Zoom, and we're all very fortunate to be able to get to communicate and communicate with the world. You can communicate with people in other states and whatever, not so like you used to, maybe on the phone or whatever. But this is totally different. And I think, like I said, I think it's going to make people think, man, when this is over, we're really just going to go sit with some friends and hang out and chat and sit by the fire and drink, smoke cigars and drink some whiskey, and eat some good food, and just really slow down and enjoy yourselves. Enjoy other people's company,
That's what we have to look forward to. We're really going to look forward to that, and we're going to look forward to coming and seeing you and having some Buzzard's Roost and maybe even some cigar. Do you have a favorite cigar pairing with this? Is there a cigar that you enjoyed with this particular whiskey?
Tom, I don't smoke as much as I used to. Just kind of, I guess, fools with my sinuses more. My allergies are getting worse, I guess, since I get older. But I used to love a real light CAO box press.
Those are nice, yeah.
Oh, yeah, just one of my favorite all-time cigars. And not heavy enough to knock you on your butt, but nice enough to sit around and smoke. If I do smoke a cigar these days, it's especially here in the restaurant business and whatever, I don't have time to do it, so I'll smoke those little cigarellos,
right.
Get a Davidoff or whatever. So
those are nice.
Yeah, and that's really all I can spend time doing. And I don't have 30 minutes to 40 minutes to invest in a big cigar and actually enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I can see how this would be. We've had some cigar guests the last week and a half or so. We had our friends from Drew Estates. We had our friends from Camacho. I can see this going really nicely with some good cigars, the roundness on this, the proof of it, standing up not only to a good cocktail, but also to a really good cigar. So this really has a lot of amazing potential. So this is it's exciting.
I look forward to I really haven't spent a lot of time with cigars and this whiskey, but I think I will this summer and this fall probably try to get into a few more pairings and maybe do some. We do different tastings and things like that. And
yes.
Here at the restaurant, we've done cheeses and chocolates and whatever. So naturally, we want to do kind of a cigar tasting with Buzzard Roost and a pairing. So that's definitely in our future.
Yeah, and you got that wonderful fire pit outside there and next to it. It's a good.
I was trying to do this remote out by the fire tonight, but my internet connection out there is terrible.
It's all right. We'll make sure the next time we have one together, we'll be there, and I'll bring you some cigars. Tell you what, I'll even look for a great pairing on this with a cigar, and I'll bring you the cigar.
Yeah, definitely do some research. I'm sure you won't mind doing some research.
I'll be all right there. We got some time now that we're quarantined. That's why we're having a good sip every night. And again, for all those who are watching. Come back every night, usually around 8 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night, State 38. Friday, we're going to have Chris Morris from Woodford Reserve. Saturday, our friend.
Man, I haven't seen Chris in a while.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll tune in. You'll see what Chris and I'll
have to come in and tell him hi or what have you. So
I will. We're going to be talking about the postponed Derby and what's going to be happening there with Woodford. So we're going to have some good time.
Normally we do a handicapping dinner the week of Derby, and I'll bring a couple handicappers in, and it's a great dinner. And it was a personal dinner, but of course that's got backed up. But I know people have a lot of questions about the Derby, so we're actually doing a virtual dinner with Mark Coombs tomorrow night on Zoom, I guess.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to look in on that, you can, the prices are on there. But he's going to talk about the history of, the Derby being moved and, what's this do with the horses and all of that. So yes. It's a big deal. And I know people have a lot of questions about it. At least I do.
Yes.
Where are we going from here, obviously. But, so
that'd be a good show. Information about that, Jason?
Pardon me?
Where can they find information about the virtual dinner, and is it on your website? Or?
Yeah, I think go to Bourbon's Bistro's website, and there should be a tab on there about the virtual dinner. Okay. And we're doing them probably not quite as much as you are. You're doing them every night, but we're trying to do one a week or maybe one every 2 weeks. So if anybody's interested, and I had Bernie Lubbers on, we did a little music and had a dinner and did some tastings, of course. And I'm working on getting a movie producer on. Are you familiar with? That's going to drive me crazy. If I hadn't brought it up, Stu Pollard. You know Stu?
Yeah, I think I've heard that name. Yes.
Yeah, we're trying to get Stu on here later in the month, and so anyhow, we're just trying to keep people entertained and stay in touch with people and interact, as much as you can around whiskey. And I know you're doing the same. You got to keep the torch going. And, it's we're just trying to keep people out there, keep them sane.
No, that's absolutely true. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I just found that link. I want to make sure everybody can find it. I'm going to put it on all the channels that are watching right now.
Oh, cool.
So I just put up that on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, so everybody can see that link, and we'll put it up on.
Cool.
Yeah, up on our social media on Bourbon Blog too. That way everybody can find it. I think that's great though. That'll be really fun to hear about the history of what's been happening there. And again, they can pick their dinner up and then they'll watch at home to actually really understand it, right?
Exactly.
So that's really to celebrate Derby, which usually you all during Derby are very. You're really busy on Derby week, aren't you?
It's our Black Friday. It's the best time of year. We're busy all week, and we're gonna it's gonna be different this year for sure.
Right.
But we're looking forward to it in September. Right. Then we've got Breeders' Cup backing that up, which is going to be at Keeneland, I think, again this year.
Right.
So we'll be busy for that as well. And here in Kentucky, it's all about whiskey and horses. So. That's pretty much my life. That's I love the horses and love whiskey, and
we always enjoy doing a lot of great coverage on Bourbon Blog, which we'll be bringing you. We always do the Barnstable Brown party, a lot of the other celebrity parties. We'll obviously be bringing all of you that in September. And
can
also,
you get me into that? What's
that?
Can you get me into that?
I might maybe just come along. Maybe you could be my photographer this year. No, and we usually do stop by and see you during Derby week too for a good cocktail. So it'll be fun to see you in September. But this is really, Louisville more and more has become a city. I mean, it always has been, but has become a city that has had a lot of tourism, known for restaurants, hospitality. Obviously, we're looking forward into September. But what's the vibe there when it comes to what's happening right now in the with COVID? I mean, what's the general? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people supporting great local restaurants, but how's it been going in general?
We have a lot of support out there.
Yeah.
But once again, it's not the same as being open.
Right.
It just there's something different. A lot of people are kind of apprehensive, real tense about the situation. A lot of people have lost their jobs, not only us in the restaurant business,
right.
But it trickles down to farmers and everybody, so I think everybody's apprehensive and we're just, holding our breath till we can get through this, and we will get through it. I mean, I think once they come out with a vaccination, that it's going to open up. And once again, I said, people are hopefully they're going to look around because nothing like this has ever happened in my lifetime, my father's lifetime. They may have, the tail end of the wars or whatever. But we've really never seen any. The 9/11 was big, and but there's nothing like this. Nothing. I've never seen the government shut things down. So I think we're going to learn a lot, and moving forward, people are going to get together like they've never before in the past. And I'm looking forward to that because I think it's going to be a really good time once we get through this.
Yes, that's right. It'll be quite a big party. I agree.
Yeah.
It'll be a big party. Well, Jason, it's so great to have you here tonight, and thank you so much for joining us here on our Quarantine Drinking Team series. Again, it's Buzzard's Roost. You can find them on Instagram, on Facebook, on your websites. Is it buzzardsroostwhiskies.com, I think? That's right.
Yes.
Just Google it. It'll take you right there. And I know if you Google it, I did earlier, I think there's a few places that sell this. So find this to order. And I love this stuff. And I can't wait to try the future releases with you. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, definitely, Tom. I really appreciate you having me on. And I look forward to sitting down and having a drink with you once this is all over with.
Me too. Congratulations on this brand, and you guys stay safe and well there. And thanks to all who watched us tonight. Definitely check out what we're doing the rest of the week on BourbonBlog.com. The schedule's up there. A different interview every night, and we are going to continue to do this for as long as the quarantine lasts, right here on Bourbon Blog. So, cheers, Jason. We'll raise a virtual toast to you, my friend.
Yeah. Cheers, Tom. Really appreciate it. Cheers, everybody who's watching.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. 1 second. I will